to do this now. But I'm a big rule follower, and there's rules and procedures put in place, and we didn't follow them. And if I remember correctly, wasn't it known, the naming? Like, wasn't that all, that was not part of the, oh. I just think that, I think it's good, it's a new start. It's a new start. We have five schools coming together, and as a disability advocate, that's really crucial, because you have 5 kids are for disabled kids. There are 5 elementary schools, and they're protected within their school. And then they go to the middle school, and half the school doesn't know Johnny over here that was a Thomas Paine. And so I was really encouraged to come here, learn how to be, because you're different. Elementary and middle school is very different. And so to come here and learn how to be middle school or upper levels, I don't know what you call it. I think this is a safe space for the students to do that. And I just think that, unfortunately, there was a lot of negative connotation with the Wiley thing. And it took us a lot of meetings and a whole summer and a lot of hurt feelings. This is a good building. It's a good, clean building, good staff. I don't see why we should change it.
Any other voices or thoughts to share?
I know when the school Wiley closed, my son was going to Thomas Paine, and when other students had came over there, it was a big us versus them mentality. They treated a lot of the kids at Thomas Paine bad. Nobody wanted to be friendly. Kids were, I don't know, I know they were upset because it was a big shift. Some of them were spending their 5th grade going to a whole different school, and so that was really hard. And I know they see their parents going through those emotions too, so it kind of got reflected. So it's nice to have a fresh start in the beginning where everybody can come together as a community and say, hey, this is our school now, and just come together. When my kid comes to school here, he knows it as the Urbana Sixth Grade Center. So.
I want to echo what you said. As a parent, my daughter had the privilege and opportunity to be flexible and spend her 5th grade year at Yankee Ridge. And she was a dual language student. It was hard initially, like it would be, change can be hard. However, it was one of the best years she had with shifting, getting to know new faces, new spaces. And I think that has carried her into this shift too, by being a proud member of the 6th Grade Center. I actually talked to the students and kind of listened to what they think, what they feel, how they want to be represented. And I know I'm not speaking to every student at the 6th Grade Center, but I'm speaking to a majority of different voices. And one of the things that they talk a lot about is it is consistent with Urbana Middle School and Urbana High School, or the Urbana 6th Grade Center. They did feel a little like, oh man, we can't be at the big building, but now they take pride and ownership as being the first class at Urbana 6th Grade Center, and wearing that name proudly, be it on a t-shirt, and it connects them to Urbana Middle School still. I'm a person who is extremely proud of growing up in this community, being an alum, and I know, thinking in the athletic realm a little bit, if we're the Urbana 6th Grade Center, it ties real smoothly into I'm a member of the Urbana Middle School team, and then ultimately we'll all come together at the Urbana High School. So I think that's some of the things that they talk about frequently. And they're just proud of being in this space and place and the educators that are here. And there is a sense of community and pride in that. But I do not discount Flossie Wiley and making sure that we honor her in some way, shape, or form. Anyway.
only been here for 7 years, but I know when this center was being considered, I have been working in Urbana Middle School. And the first thing I thought of was a safe space, what this young lady brought up for the students. I think it's a lot for them to transition from 5th grade to middle school. And there are so many changes that they have to deal with when they first get into the middle school. They have to deal with changing classes. They have to deal with having way more teachers than they had in elementary school. Their bodies changing, their DNA or chemicals changing, and it's just so many changes that they have to adjust to. And then having the older kids dealing with their adjustments as well in the 7th and 8th grade, in the 7th and 8th grades. And I know when I would talk with my colleagues, we just thought that this is such a great idea for them to have a space where they can learn how to deal with their changes that they are going through, and then also be able to be a middle schooler at the same time and have a safe space to navigate that. I as well think that Flossie Wiley should be celebrated and acknowledged still, and I think that legacy should be held somewhere either in this building or the garden. I just agree with that as well. And so I'm excited, again, being a teacher here, about us making history, and all the kids that I talk to as well are excited. And I love Urbana Sixth Grade Center.
Thank you for sharing. Are there any thoughts that we would like to share? Any other statements?
I think we should all take a step back and think about the reason we're here. Not just for naming the building. We're here to make sure that our kids thrive, academic achievement, and the name of the building does not contribute to academic achievement. It can be named anything. The kids really, at the end of the day, won't care when they're walking out. That's my 2 cents, is that we're making a lot of a hullabaloo over the name of a building. When you state it doesn't affect academic achievement. So cooler heads can prevail. We all just take a look and see why we're here. I'm either way. I can go either way with Flossie Wiley School, 6th Grade Center, and just to be known, about 150, maybe 50 yards from here, there's a street named after Wiley. So she's not forgotten. The city will never change that name. So that's my 2 cents.
I get the unique privilege in all the district. I get to talk to a lot of teachers and parents from like all different levels and all different schools throughout the building or throughout the district. And I remember like when we were closing Wiley, and there was a lot of like raw nerves and a lot of strong emotions about that, and a lot of the teachers who were at the board meetings and parents. And like I remember their faces and remember talking to them, and I'm just like happy, like I still see those same people today, and I engage with them and talk to them all the time, and the response, not universally, but overwhelmingly is like I'm mostly like, I'm happy to be where I am now, and I'm like happy that the things that you've been doing to improve academics and like student environment for the past 2 years have happened. irregardless of the name. I'm mostly here tonight to talk about, like, I know you talked a little bit about the signage out front and like the difficulty of changing the signage. There's a lot that lives under the school district that's, you don't see every day. And there's a lot of things that are set up that like have to go into place. Whenever we bring up a new school with the state, we get a new school number, and we assign a new name to it. Whenever we go to change that, it's not just the thing with the state that we have to change, but there's also every single phone system, every single crisis go, all of the curriculum, all of the student engagement panorama, all of the things that we do from day to day, all have to get changed. And we have people on staff who it's our job to change that. And all of the, in IT, we like to talk about the known knowns and the unknown knowns. If we fix all of the things we can, but every time there's a fairly large disruption, and I'm sure Ms. Carr could say, like even getting this school set up, we're 2 weeks into the school year, and we were sending out notifications to parents through our school messenger system, which we're gonna be deprecating at the end of this year. And it would come up and say, you sent out a message to 525 parents, and we didn't find out until 2 weeks into the school year.
Joe knows the day before the school.
Yeah, that like it was saying that it was sending out messages, but those messages weren't going out because in the interconnects between Skyward and School Messenger, all those emails weren't getting lined up. And it might have been you, Ms. Douglas, who said, hey, I haven't gotten these messages, and it was a big surprise. That was one of like a half a dozen things that were issues with getting things changed over. So yeah, there are a lot of like financial costs with switching over, but there's also a lot of other disruption in the building to switching things over, from the library system to where they check out books, to map scores, to all the cameras, to all the lights are on their own system, and everything is all interconnected in like a horrific web of complication that I wish I didn't have to know about. But yeah, there are a lot of other disruptions just aside from the monetary.
So, I always have to ask for this thing. Just talk, and those are interesting idea or systems you're talking about, but just to simplify it for my brain, I'm thinking like the sign outside, the school handbooks. I'm sure you have stationery, just, I don't know the word I'm using, paper stuff.
Basic.
Basic,
Physical,
yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Could you just give a rough estimate of what, just that changing the school, like you said, all the basic, just like the paper stuff, how much money would that cost? Like just $10,000 or $50,000?
It's not 10,000. It's, I wouldn't want to speculate a guess. Usually
Can that be a task that we have for the
we could
next
look into
meeting?
it.
Can
Like,
we research?
I like to put things into how many zeros they have. and
Well,
if
I'm
you
just
get
saying,
one
that was
extra
the cheapest
zero,
thing I
then
could think of.
50,000.
But if you're telling me there's 10 other things that you have to change, if those cost money, it's interesting that you said that, I didn't even think of that. But I was just thinking it sounded like a lot of money just to change the sign and to do paperwork. And now you've added that, do we have that money? I mean, I'm assuming we're looking at $50,000 at the least to change everything you just talked about. Do we have that money in the budget to do that?
That's definitely something we can add to, the task, in 6.1, to give, a little bit more, thought to what, Mr. Guzman was sharing. An example of a disruption that we experienced this year was because our systems, they sync, like everything syncs with Skyward, our testing, platform. A lot of the curriculum online resources that teachers use in their classroom, they sync to Skyward. Well, because all of the changes that were tied to our code, they weren't aligned, and so that meant teachers could not access their online resources. We couldn't pull up data in the testing platforms because they weren't syncing. And so when we wanted to do data dives, or we wanted to see how students were performing, or provide students with access to the resources that were supposed to be available, there was a significant delay in getting that to them, getting them the information, getting information out to families, because the systems weren't able to communicate with one another. And so, because in one aspect it was showing up one way, and in another one it was tied to something different. And so it took a lot of behind the scenes work from our IT team and from the young lady over our testing data and everything in order to get that fixed. And it was after the testing cycle before we could actually sync the data, and I could actually share it with staff to talk about, okay, this is what our data looks like, this is how our students are performing. So it wasn't just an overnight thing to fix. In my mind, because I don't understand all the workings, I might think, oh, that should be just something simple. Unfortunately, it was not, and it caused several domino effects of hiccups, providing students with the supports and services they needed and the resources they needed access to. And our teachers were also limited to what they could do in the classroom because of the glitch and the issues that came out of that.
So if we were to change the name to whatever, we would go through that system again, is what you're saying? Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Would it affect academics for the students that are here?
Academics in the way that all the,
I mean, like.
yeah, not to make it sound more complicated, but it's not just the district changing things. We interface with 30 different vendors, and whenever we change something here, all of those vendors have to change all of their synchronizations.
Even like food.
So food service, busing, actually, I forgot about, was another big problem kind of at the beginning of the year, getting all of the, not just the routes and all of the EduLog is the bus system they use, but not just that, but then all of the systems that then notify parents when a bus is late or on time. But also, as far as academics, all of the curriculum is through there, all of the assessment is through there, and it's all based on the name and the school code, which right now is SGC. So.
And I think ultimately when we talk about why are we here in general is to grow students and their academic journey to the best of their potential, right? So like if you think about all of the inner workings and the connection, if there is a shift, all of that data, we're gonna have to figure out where it goes and how we're gonna connect it to said student as they matriculate through the district. So ultimately, when we're talking about having those data conversations like you do in your PLCs or in your staff meetings, that could be data that we don't see for a little bit. It's gonna take a little bit more time. So then we're not intervening necessarily as quickly as we can because there's a delay in receiving data. So we're not able to look at our tier 2 interventions and our tier 3 supports because we're still waiting for this data. And that can happen with MAP testing, IR testing, just your basic testing within HMH. Correct.
And I don't wanna dwell
But
on
it
that.
is, yeah.
It's
It's
not
just a piece of the puzzle.
That's not the biggest thing, I was just trying to
Right.
respond to your, like, it's a little bit more complicated than changing the sign on the door. Like, I think our motivating factor should be, like, what the program is for this building and like what it means to students, not on all the minutia of all the details, but it is a overwhelming thing to change a building from one name to another.
When would you look to change it? So like if it gets changed in 3 weeks, are we changing it in 3 weeks, or are we voting to change it and then we'll do it in the summer? My concern is everything you just said. I don't want to be in Christmas break doing all these changeovers.
It would have to take place over the summer.
Oh, okay, okay. So we're not looking for an immediate change.
It would depend on the will of this group. It
Oh,
would
okay.
be incredibly disruptive to change it mid-year.
Okay.
Just to keep us abreast of the time, we have 10 minutes. I know that Mr. Kuznir, please go ahead.
They have to.
Go.
I do have one question, since we were talking about
I kind of feel is a false dichotomy of how it was named. I would like to know from the board members, what was the point in time that the name Sixth Grade Center was chosen, and how was it chosen as opposed to Urbana Middle School Sixth Grade Campus or some of the other varieties of things? Because that was the point in time that there was a name applied without a process being followed.
I remember seeing it first mentioned on the board charge for the facilities committee last 2 summers ago. Is that right?
Yeah, and I was on that committee and I just seemed, I don't know that it ever like came from somewhere, it's just how people
referred to
were
it.
referring to it. It was,
There was no official.
was
No one ever came and
working
said-
title that became the
Exactly.
name.
Yeah.
no one ever came and said, this is what, you know, because it was very much a committee where we were talking about
What-
options
What to do
and,
with it.
yeah,
Nobody ever asked.
Not that
I didn't think it
was.
would, they never really,
It just
and
wasn't
no one
done.
said this is what.
Can I go back to the norm really fast about, I think this is important, our time. So like, are we gonna stay on time within the hours, or are we gonna be like going over, or how's that?
No, we're gonna stay, we are going to stay on time, so we have 8 minutes and one more agenda item, unless there is a final thought that can be shared in about a minute or two. We can move forward.
Can I add one procedural thing while we're like in the 1 minute? I would just like to remind, I know we have some board members and some joining board members, but everything we're doing as part of this committee is district work and is subject to FOIA. So anything of the work that we're doing with this committee, I'd just like to remind the newcomers that even if it's your personal email or text, that's still subject to FOIA. So if you're talking about district work, we have been getting a lot of FOIAs from community members.
Personal notes that we take in the meeting or not. So,
Yes, not that, but like communications is.
Don't email everybody, do not email
Oh, yeah.
everybody.
Yes, and yeah, if you're emailing people, don't email more than one other person on the committee related to the business of the committee. If you have work to do for work, you can still email about work things.
So don't hit reply all.
trust me, I know that.
Sorry, thank you.
No, thank you. All right, 7 minutes remaining. We're going to go ahead with 6.1. One thing I do realize that I neglected to do, but I will cover in the 6.1 where it says tasks and resources needed for the next meeting. Part of our responsibility is to take a vote that we are going to submit as our recommendation to the Board of Education. Before we decide, I'd like us to go over any tasks or resources we feel we need prior to making a decision. Is there anything we want to bring to the next meeting? I know research about the cost was mentioned earlier as one of the tasks. Is there an additional piece of information?
I would like to know when either the administration or the board decided the name was the name to use for things that involves cost.
And if I may, James, I also put the previous changing through the years, how did that all occur? Was that something the committee wants to know? I could
It's
try
in
to
the
look, I could
letter.
try to do some research on
It's in the
that.
letter. That
I
was
know the
shared.
process though, you're asking about the process. I could try to do some research, but
In the history of it.
Yeah, of why it remained the same
Mhm.
instead of when it closed and changed.
Can I change asking about money? Well, I just mean, I don't need to know the dollar amount. You mentioned many things, and maybe would it be easier if you just wrote a list of what needs to change when we change it? Would that be easier? I don't need you to look at the billboard and it's this much money and if you could just say, here are the things that
That
need
is
to
a-
change.
Great question, and as you were saying, how much does it cost? I was just thinking how difficult that is to figure out how many hours times how many.
Yeah, so if you could just,
time.
I think in order to be able to say that
If
there are,
everybody else is
there are
okay
20
with
things that need to change, and that we can just all assume that they're gonna cost more than $10 and it's gonna be expensive. Yeah, if you could do that instead of the money.
Like, it's easy for me to put like a number of zeros on things when we start getting to like, oh, how much exactly did this cost? It gets a little harder, but
We have just over 4 minutes, okay. Anything else we want to add to the list of things we want to bring back to our next meeting? Okay, I see that the majority of us are available on November 10th and November 17th. Do we want to select November 10th as our next meeting?
Could I ask for that,
Yes.
since I will not be here on the 17th.
Okay.
Not in the state.
Not in state,
On the 17th.
but the
It's
10th
your
you will be.
birthday.
Okay,
Okay, then I was gonna say I get ribeye or bigger, bring it back, I'll be there.
so
November 10th at
10th
6
works for
o'clock?
everybody?
Same time?
Bring you a cake.
Same time, same location, on the 10th. And we'll get those invitations out. Ms. Hinch, I know, you weren't originally available. so-
I didn't mark more than one,
Okay,
that's fine.
okay, but you, so you,
Yeah.
okay. Great, and that will mean, pretty much the same number that are present today, will be present then. If we only need the 2 meetings, we just have to be here for at least 50% of the time to be able to vote. Now, I know that there are our board members, because they will vote once the, recommendation is submitted to the Board of Education, so, the remaining board, naming committee members, will have the opportunity to cast, their vote. Is there any discussion around that in the 2.5 minutes?
The board members won't vote.
Not
Board
all.
You're just
members
out
will
here,
not.
okay.
I'm just waiting to leave.
Oh, yes. We get you.
You guys are starting
All right,
off.
we are
Very
good on
close.
time,
The
so.
city building is close by.
Awesome. If there is nothing further, I call this meeting adjourned at 6:57. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.